Good evening and welcome to the 35th episode. Today we are going to cover the brilliant book Triggers by Marshall Goldsmith, one of the world's top executive coaches. He says that every one of our behaviors is preceded by a trigger, and he has written one whole chapter on the environment and how the environment around us creates most of these triggers, thereby dictating most of our behaviors. He classifies these triggers into a beautiful matrix that could be called the need-want matrix. On the y-axis you have want it, don't want it. On the x-axis you have need it and don't need it. Temptation, distraction and pleasure. We don't need them, but we do succumb to them and they take us away from our long-term objectives. What we need to focus upon though are these that we want as well as need: praise, recognition, admiration and money. They are encouraging and productive. Even though we may not want them, we do need some amount of rules, discipline, fear, pain and punishment to keep us on track towards our long-term objectives. And we can ignore this don't want it, don't need it quadrant. Goldsmith digs deeper into the trigger behavior loop. Like a shotgun, as soon as the trigger occurs, our impulsive behavior also occurs immediately. But if we become more aware of the trigger, we do have a choice in terms of our behaviors that we can exhibit, and we can switch to a more productive behavior. And for that, Goldsmith has a nice tool he calls the I what. Can I make a positive difference to this topic at this time? That allows us to take control of the trigger and switch our behavior. I'll give you a simple example. I used to get very irritated whenever I was driving in traffic. Now with city traffic, there's nothing positive about it that I can do. So I became more aware of it and took control of it, and now I am much calmer. I also believe that the mindfulness meditation technique that I recently covered is a good way to increase awareness about these triggers. Now for us to stick to the long-term goals, Goldsmith says that we need what he calls a commitment device, and his idea is that we ask ourselves questions. We break down our long-term objectives into things that we can do every day and ask if we did them. Did I do my best to? And here is an example from one of his coaches. Did I do my best to stick to the juice cleanse? Did I do my best to exercise today? Did I do my best to advance my wine knowledge? He's studying for the sommelier exam and so on. As you answer these questions every day, it creates a positive loop and creates the triggers for you to do them continuously and stick to your long-term journey. It's a beautiful device, and in our programs we have a process called check-ins which achieves a similar purpose. Now last time I had asked what is it that prevents us from doing the green zone tasks, and I got a lot of good responses, but the winning response is from Savita Nallaswamy. She says, quote, lack of self-introspection and lack of self-awareness about who we are, what we want to be and what we want to do is what prevents us from doing them. She is very correct, and it is for those reasons that there are no triggers for green zone tasks. Now Goldsmith's technique of the daily active questions is one way. There are other techniques that we have developed that will help us do these green zone tasks. With that, I'll thank you all for listening to my coverage of Triggers by Marshall Goldsmith.